the suppliers are not saying we will not get out of the problem. They are saying not, as we want the solution today. They are saying no, because there is a backlog, the demand is rising, we have supply chain, we can only supply these pieces per because there's a process. There's what we call an originating file, which now is available to the new suppliers. Then they manufacture something which is like a template, and then there's a whole process, and there are limitations. They are saying to be able to bring the situation in normalcy, and I'm talking about something that we discussed last week. They are saying we are going to still experience challenges for at least another 90 days or even more, even 100 days, until now the 7 days express service is restored, because the problem had accumulated, the backlog and the other complications that came by. And I hold the country a duty of truth. One of the members, I think, said we need to communicate to the country, and I agree that the picture that we are presenting at Nyayo House it's actually disrespectful to the people of Kenya to come there and spend the day there, the whole day, a crowded place, no meals, some young children there, lactating mothers. It is not right. We must, even as we tackle this problem, which I'm saying, I cannot promise it will end tonight, but it's in sight, because the fundamentals have been are in place. It's only now the clearing of backlog and the other things I've said about supply chain. We will find a way of stopping that crowding from next week somehow. Yeah, we better tell the people of Kenya the truth. Yeah, there's nothing secret. If you cannot get your passport today, we tell you we don't have it. The rest of it is okay. If Kenyans want to express their dissatisfaction, it's also their right to do so, rather than the picture we're having there. I agree, the corruption issues are still rampant there, and I have told all my colleagues there, we will have to clean up the place. We have begun somewhere, but we are not yet there. We've begun, but we have not yet there. We have a real problem. It's the police, it's the immigration officers, it's other agents who do the mix, the linking of the service provider, and we just ask for a little patience. We'll have to move even officers we suspect, even before getting evidence that they are corrupt, we have to move them just as a good practice. We have moved the procurement. I've directed the PS to liaise with National Treasury, the procurement people there, and the security agencies also are going to be moved, all of them, including police officers and everybody else. We just have to clean up this place. Maybe you can give us another 10 days to complete that exercise, then you can go and verify for yourself. Then the backlog is almost now under 1,724,000. It's building based on the daily number of applicants and what we are dishing out. But allow me to do that in the written statement. And going forward, anything passports, I'll handle the public communications and I'll take responsibilities for the mess. When the mess is sorted out, everybody else can take the credit. What pains me as the minister is when Kenyans pay for a service and they can't get it. That is very, very disheartening. It makes me feel very low. So, but the fees are manageable. They are manageable comparative, but now the challenge is for us to up our service level, the provision of. So I'm going to take over the public communications work to my office on issue of passports, because let me handle it. Let me handle it going forward so that we tidy that place. And then I didn't know I was required to come with my PS. If I knew, I would have brought him along, because if it's the requirement of the committee, we have no reason not to bring him along. Then finally, um, now that we have the money, the supply chain people are telling us we will have improved service immediately, but the problem will get out of the way in another 90 days or 100 days. I've asked if I can be called after that to give an account of what we'll have done. I thank you. I submit. Chair, I've been asked to report progress on the issue of passport issuance. I regret to inform you and the committee that we have not achieved the targets that we set for ourselves as government in terms of cleaning up the space and enabling the people of Kenya to access passports when they need them. Our initial assessment, which led me to make the commitment I made before this committee that time, were complicated by new other discoveries and new other state of affairs, some of which are beyond the control of the government of Kenya. But I am happy to announce to you, Chair, and the committee that initially there was a budgetary constraints, a serious budgetary constraint that was helping us, that was making it impossible for us to meet production targets. I'm happy to report that budgetary constraint has been removed. So it's no longer lack of money, and I'm grateful to my colleague in the National Treasury and the other players who have helped us to unlock the funding issue, including allowing the immigration, the State Department for Immigration and Citizen Services to retain a bit of appropriations in aid to be able to meet the demands. Nevertheless, the demand keep on surging because of the government, the very aggressive government program to export labor, to create jobs for Kenyans who would want to go and work abroad, and the mere expectation that people might need to travel to look for jobs has exponentially increased the demand. When I was here, the backlog was actually less than 200,000. Today it is much more bigger than that, and everybody wants a passport now. So as we fixed the budget, the demand was also exponentially expanding. Number two, there was the little problem of, it's not little, it's significant, of global supply chain of the raw material that is used in the making of the world-class standard passports that is approved by the International Civil Aviation Organization. Because of certain global supply chain constraints, the process, now that we have the money, we have all the money we need to make all the passports for everyone. But the global supply chain, which has been disrupted, I am told, by the war in Ukraine and other things, and other factors beyond the boundaries of Kenya, the people we want to help us correct the mess are telling us the pace at which we want the solution, they cannot provide the solution in that pace. They are saying, for example, we would require approximately 3 million booklets every 90 days. They are saying they can only give us half of that because of some scientific explanations, which we are happy to provide to the committee on around, which you can also verify, because I mean there's nothing secret about global dynamics, and the people who manufacture passport booklets and passport security are known in the world. We have approached all of them. We have literally engaged every effort, but they are saying the demand, because of the time lapse, they cannot supply us the numbers we require to be able to arrest this problem like instantly. Because we wanted every 90 days, 3 million passports for the next 2 years. Then every Kenyan will have a passport and we close this story. Then we start now going to schools to look for children who are turning 18 and give them passports immediately, just like the ID, even without applying. And I am convinced, Chair, and I know the public is justified to be skeptical because of, for whatever reason. I am convinced we will reach there. The problem is between here and there. It's taking a little longer, but we will reach there. There is no reason why someone who has paid, they have even paid for the service, by the way. They pay several thousands to get a passport, but we cannot offer it. So we are doing our best, Chair, and I am afraid at the moment we've gotten the money, we've gotten people who can help us with the production process, but they are telling us the speed in which the magnitude of this problem, it will take us another few months before we're in a clean slate and before we can now have that intended policy directive we had given over passports within 7 days. So we are not there. We are doing our best, and I want to absolve everyone else from blame. I will take responsibility for the resolution of the passport mess as the minister and the team leader of the ministry and the Department of Immigration and Citizen Services. We are still cracking down on corruption there. We've made serious progress. We have prosecuted over 17 members of staff. They are in court as we speak. One of them got a heart attack. We arrested him, he got a heart attack because he never believed we will reach to them because they know many people in town and so forth. We have not yet there. There is still reports of corruption, taking advantage of the shortages to demand bribes. But again, the war against corruption in the immigration department is ongoing through overt and covert measures. I submit, Chair. The A&A, which has been allowed to be retained by the Department of Immigration and Citizen Services, is 3 billion annually. We want to escalate it to 5 billion. And we are going to make a commitment to the government through the National Treasury that other than creating efficiency, if the immigration department is facilitated with 5 billion shillings, first of all, right now that department is collecting about 20 billion to the exchequer annually. They're asking to retain 5. We were given 3, which already is helping us. But if we get 5 billion, the revenue will jump from 20 billion to 100 billion a year. That's how serious it is. And the government is supportive, the National Treasury is supportive. I forgot, Chair, to thank the committee, but I thought I could do it at the end. That this committee has been extremely supportive, and part of the success in getting this money is the sweat and effort of your committee, Chair. I'm very grateful as the minister for making my work much easier. We need culture change in our law enforcement space, because for many years as a country we have taken that for you or for us to enforce the law you have to be rude to the public, and it is not true. Some of the most secure countries in the world, the law enforcement officers apply 2 things. One is the rule on firmness, fairness, and non-discriminative enforcement approach. Because ridding the country from serious threats, terror, organized crime, drug issues, require very firm, consistent measure applied to all people. Because the moment you start treating the rich differently from the poor, in the process, that's where the cracks that hurt us get through or come from. In some countries, there is no VIP treatment on security checks. Every person using an international airport in some countries I don't want to name, they use one gate. Everyone. And it is not because it's not because that country doesn't realize there are some people who are high in society, but in the national interest. But secondly, in the best practices that we want to borrow from, that firmness, fairness, non-discriminative approach must be tempered with courtesy. And it is possible. We've done an experiment. It's only that we don't have time. We have 3 multi-agency counter-terrorism roadblocks in this country, and those ones we will not remove them. In fact, we want to add to 13. One in Achas Post on the Moyale-Isiolo Highway. One in Kanyonyo on the Garissa-Mwingi Thika Nairobi Highway. And one in Sabaki because of the road from Garsen down to Malindi, Mombasa. The teams there are special teams and multi-agency. Almost 0 instances of corruption and the other stupid things that we are getting that are spoiling the good image of government law enforcement officials. They have helped the country thwart very serious threats, but they are also fairly polite. They will stop everyone, whoever you are. As Minister for Security, they will stop me at Kanyonyo because the road is blocked. So I can't pass until they know it is the minister. But they are also very courteous to members of parliament, governors. Oh, how are you, sir? We just want to make sure you're fine, and and you pass eventually. You've been stopped, but you've been treated well. The problem we have is to be stopped, and then you are treated rudely, and then you ask for a bribe. That's where the problem is. So we are working on it. We'll increase the counter-terrorism roadblocks to about 13. And save the country from this. And in terms of that, let me answer the other question, which was how many remain out of the 27? About 7. And they're not necessarily in one place. We keep on changing depending where the threat is reported to be coming from. For example, when we put Achas Post, the crooks that are trafficking in persons, trafficking in drugs, are now avoiding from Moyale. They go to Wajir North, to Buna, they go to Yamicha in Wajir, and then enter Isiolo through Kina, Maua. Then they also, once they avoid that, they also do a few other maneuvers here. They end up avoiding even coming to Nairobi. They use a place here near Tala. They get into the river, and we have intercepted very many lorries carrying aliens, carrying drugs around Mutito and Day, and so forth and so forth. So these roadblocks are not going to be even temporary in one place. It depends on which section of the road the threat is. So you might carry out an inspection and tell us what number you find at that particular time. We have not been able to eliminate all the roadblocks, but we have removed the permanent roadblocks that have been on the Northern Transit Corridor, but we still maintain impromptu temporary roadblocks along the corridor, and I'll explain why we are at that stage at the moment. First and foremost, because of the regional legal requirements and the directive already given by the government through the president, we have no option but to completely remove the roadblocks. However, upon review of the requirements by the regional law and also the government directive, we have found it necessary to still maintain impromptu temporary roadblocks in selected areas because of the need to address security threats that are not trade related along the northern transit corridor. In particular, our counter-terrorism measures along that corridor are still quite required, and abrupt, complete removal of roadblocks, even in a temporary way, would hurt the country big time until perhaps we escalate the management of that corridor into the new measures that we want to escalate it into, which requires a bit of financial investment and will take a bit of time. Therefore, in light of the security concerns, we have been setting up roadblocks to prevent or respond to potential terrorist attacks or threats. And commanders along that transit corridor are instructed to make sure that they only set up a roadblock when there is intelligence of an impending threat that is mobile along that corridor, to conduct searches, very strict searches, but friendly, because we don't want to harass road users. But as soon as that operation, that security operation is achieved, to withdraw the roadblock. However, in the long term, once the country is able to invest, as we are now doing, in the cameras and other IT technology along the highway, even the ongoing physical roadblocks will even be brought to almost minimal. However, the threat of terror remains a major concern, and for the members to appreciate why this is a major concern along the northern transit corridor is that the traditional threat has always come from the eastern part of our borders, either the northeastern frontier counties or the Boni Enclave County of Lamu. However, the complications of the situation in eastern DRC has brought an additional source of terror threats, because some of the armed activities taking place in eastern DRC are now confirmed to be potential breeding grounds for terror cells which are connected to international terror networks. We have already intercepted and thwarted several threats, and at the moment we are seized with an active investigations, which I don't want to say much about, of the incident that happened in Siaya 2-3 months ago, which involved the attack on police officers, where we lost people. And the people we are tracking, evidence is leading us to the connection of a small cell of possible terror-minded criminals around that area connected to collaborators who might be around Eastern DRC and connected to even an international, a bigger international terror network. So again, this is a matter under investigation. It's a matter involving our diplomatic engagement with other countries. I would not want to say more on it, but Chair, in line with the requirement of the law, we are bound to remove all roadblocks. However, because of the threat of terror, we will still maintain limited temporary checkpoints to protect the country from harm. And we have instructed our field commanders and law enforcement officers to be extremely friendly in those searches, in those operations. And when it is established that the vehicle is purely a commercial vehicle on a commercial voyage, they should be facilitated and given assistance to move as fast as possible. They should not be detained inordinately long. So that's where we are. We have achieved quite a bit with the temporary roadblocks, and those who use the other highways in Kenya will appreciate. The Moyale, the checkpoint we have in Moyale has really helped us big time to again counter terrorism along that route, although now the criminals are using alternative routes through Wajir North, Yamicha, Isiolo, Kina, Maua, and getting alternative routes to avoid this. The one in Sabaki in Mombasa, again helping us, and the one in Mwingi, Kanyonyo, the one on that is counter-terrorism roadblock is also helping us. So for the time being, we remain 60% compliant, but 40% we are not compliant for the reasons I have given you. Secondly,